of the Charlie Butt Regatta. Charlie was the rowing coach at Washington Lee High School in Arlington.
Yeah, I was a coxswain for Charlie for 3 years, and it was even then an amazing experience. The man was a legend, and even then we knew it. He just commanded so much respect for his abilities, his experience, and you wanted to work hard for him.
This year is special because we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the 1964 Varsity 8 boat that won the Henley Regatta in England. So it's a really special time.
Charlie Butt, the regatta was named after him.
Correct.
You familiar with him? Heard anything
yes,
about him?
I knew Charlie.
We're looking for gossip. Everyone's giving us this boring stuff. You're going to need gossip.
Charlie was a master manipulator. He would change his lineups. He would keep even lineups for a long time and let you think that you were faster than him until it came down push to shove, and then he would put his best guys in the boat.
In other words, he was a proper coach.
He was a great coach.
He
was also an engineer. He liked to come up with unique ideas, and so he would experiment with boats in his basement.
He was always willing to help out.
Even the other teams. Yeah.
Even the other teams. If we had a problem, we would call Charlie. Charlie would help us out. So he was a great resource to us as well as a great.
Probably the secret to developing a good overall Northern Virginia rowing competition was.
That was Charlie's vision.
I think the race has been going on for about 10 or 15 years now, and I think it celebrates Charlie because Charlie was about not just Washington Lee, but about scholastic rowing in our area and then across the country. And there were so many teams that are here racing today, in addition to Washington Lee, that he helped start through generosity of equipment, time, and experience. He would be very proud.
And so on to the races. In the second race of the regatta, Stonebridge in the women's junior 4 second heat had a strong lead, but Episcopal, T.C. Williams, and Wakefield were contesting for second place.
Go Stonebridge!
As the boats got past Key Bridge, Stonebridge extended its lead, but the race remained tight. Strong performance by Wakefield, finishing very close out of second place, but the race belonged to Stonebridge. In the fourth race, the men's junior 4, St. Albans against Washington Lee. As the boats moved downriver, St. Albans was able to gradually build up a lead over Washington Lee. As the boats pass under Key Bridge, there's only about 400 meters left in the race. The Washington Lee Junior 4 men were rowing well, but unable to catch St. Albans. Moving on to the sixth race, the women's first varsity 4. The field remained tight throughout. West Potomac took the lead, but all three boats were in contention for second place.
Kayak, get out of the course! Kayak, get out of the course! Kayak! Go to Virginia! Kayak, go to Virginia! Kayak, go to Virginia!
And finally, at the finish, West Potomac took the win. But the other three boats were not far off their pace. In the next race, the men's first varsity 4, West Springfield took an early and commanding lead. The Wakefield boat rode well, but was no match for West Springfield today.
That's okay, second's good.
The second place finish delighted the Mount Vernon fans who were gathered near the finish line. On to race number 9, the first heat in the women's freshman 8. National Cathedral took an early lead, but Washington Lee was in hot pursuit. And while Washington Lee held second place upriver, West Springfield was in a close third place. The Washington Lee rowers, as they passed in front of Potomac Boat Club, were cheered on by the many rowers and alumni who had gathered for the race. But at the finish line, good win for National Cathedral and a strong second for Washington Lee. In the second heat for the women's freshman 8, T.C. Williams took on an early lead and held off the challenge from Georgetown Visitation. So only 4 boats would advance from the 3 heats, which means coming into the race 11, Yorktown had to either win or beat Washington Lee's race time if they wanted to advance to the finals. So the Yorktown women's freshman 8 awaited the signal to start.
West Potomac, Yorktown, Woodson, attention.
They're not pointed at all.
So a win in this race would punch a ticket to the finals for the boat, or finishing second and doing better than Washington Lee's time of 5:27.1. The 3 heats for the women's freshman 8 were designed to decide from among 10 boats the 4 that would advance to the finals. At this point in the race, the Yorktown freshman 8 had a lead, and they were clearly on pace to either win this race or challenge Washington Lee's time from the first heat. Woodson was slightly behind a pace in which it could beat Washington Lee's time and claim a spot in the finals. And West Potomac was also rowing very well, but were in 3rd place in this upriver position. The boats may or may not be fully aware of the time they must beat to make the finals, but that's not really their concern. They want to stay focused and row the best time they can. And while the boats move down river, their spectators at this stage in the race consist primarily of their fellow rowers who have rowed upriver to get into the starting position for a later race and are waiting idly on the far shore. Here you see the spread as the boats begin to approach Key Bridge. Yorktown maintain a lead. Woodson holding 2nd place. West Potomac in 3rd. Only 1 or 2 of these boats will advance to the finals. The winner advances, and if the 2nd place boat can do better than Washington Lee's time of 5:27 from the first heat, they will claim that 4th spot in the finals. With just about 400 meters left in the race, the Yorktown freshman 8 holding on to 1st place. This stage of the race also offers the most spectators who are gathered along the Georgetown waterfront on a sunny, warm April afternoon to cheer on the boats. And as the rowers pass the skyline of Roslyn, they approach the finish line, and Yorktown's freshman 8 will advance to the finals, where they will row against cross-county rival Washington Lee.
Hands on. Ready for shot.
One main entry point for the boats at the Charlie Butt Regatta is the Thompson Boat Center on the Potomac near the Kennedy Center. And it is one of the busiest places during the regatta, as one boat departs the dock to row upriver for the start line. Another boat quickly moves into place for its own embarkation. In race 12, the men's freshman 8, the first heat featured Washington Lee, St. Albans, T.C. Williams, and West Potomac. St. Albans, Washington Lee, and T.C. Williams all rode very well in this first start of the race. St. Albans taking a lead, Washington Lee running 2nd, closely followed by T.C. Williams. In the end, St. Albans held off the Washington Lee challenge, and Washington Lee settled for second place with a very good time of 4:50. In the second heat for the men's freshman 8, Woodson rowing very well ahead of Yorktown, and Yorktown comfortably in second place. And so the Yorktown freshman 8 also advanced to the final, where they will also row against cross-county rival Washington Lee. Moving on to race 14, the women's second 8. First heat featured a strong performance by T.C. Williams to claim first place. Georgetown Visitation, running third, finished in 5:43, which set up a challenge for the boats rowing in race 15, the second heat for the women's second varsity 8. The best last place time from races 14 and 15 would advance to the final. So Yorktown and National Cathedral, to make the finals, had to either win this heat or finishing second, but doing better than Georgetown Visitation's time of 5:43. As the boats moved downriver, National Cathedral built a lead over Yorktown, but both boats were rowing at a pace to challenge Georgetown Visitation's place in the finals. National Cathedral unable to extend its early lead as the boats crossed under Key Bridge, but it was maintaining a comfortable distance over Yorktown. Now on the home stretch, National Cathedral takes first place with a time of 5:14. Yorktown running second. But the strong performance by Yorktown in covering the course in 5 minutes and 24 seconds puts them into the finals later in the afternoon.
Okay. If you sprint the bridge, you will come up short. Done this in the past and you don't. So make sure you hold on for 10 strokes. Visiting crews may not know that. They may start to sprint the bridge. Won't give you advantage. Okay. Guys set? All right. Hands up. Let's go have a good race up the champion. 1, 2, 3.
Yorktown!
Varsity coach Steve Cauffman giving the second varsity men's boat some pre-race instruction and encouragement. The boats rowed upstream, and at the start dock we're ready for the first heat of the men's second varsity race. Very competitive field. St. Albans, Woodson, Westfield, and Yorktown. The boats tightly bunched for the first part of the race. And as all 4 boats approach Key Bridge downriver, they remain fairly tightly packed. Race officials who follow the boats in their launches. So the Yorktown men, the second varsity boat, rowing from behind but clearly in contention. And the boat's starting to spread out a little bit. St. Albans establishing a lead. Woodson, Westfield, and Yorktown are trailing. Yorktown beginning to close the gap with Westfield as the boats pass under Key Bridge, but unable to pull out of 4th place. All boats finished very strongly. Very competitive race. In the second heat for the men's Varsity 8, Washington Lee rowing against T.C. Williams, both A boat and B boat, and McLean. Again, a very tight race as the boats move downriver. Washington Lee trailing the T.C. Williams A boat and locked in a battle with McLean for 2nd place. And in the home stretch, Washington Lee held off the challenge from McLean and took 2nd to a very strong T.C. Williams boat. Yorktown's first varsity on the women's side. Left the dock at TBC, got upriver, and in position.
Yeah, this is big.
And in the 18th race, the first heat for the women's first varsity. And they're off. Competitive field with National Cathedral, Yorktown, Georgetown Visitation, and Sidwell Friends. The top 2 boats in this heat advance to the finals. The second 2 boats advance to the petite finals, both later in the afternoon. The field remained tight upriver. Yorktown's women's first varsity rowing in the 3rd lane. In hot pursuit of the National Cathedral first varsity, rowing in lane 2. Yorktown and National Cathedral beginning to open up a gap with Georgetown Visitation and Sidwell Friends. And so the battle for first place was centered in lanes 2 and 3. The boats were more than halfway to the finish. National Cathedral in the lead, Yorktown in close pursuit. And there's the gap with the field. Sidwell Friends and Georgetown Visitation battling for 3rd place, while National Cathedral and Yorktown battle for 1st place. Yorktown beginning to close the gap with National Cathedral as the boats passed under Key Bridge. The race tightened at the finish. Yorktown with a sprint, challenging National Cathedral. They've cut more than half the gap from the bridge. And National Cathedral claims 1st place with Yorktown a very close 2nd.
You're in the finals. Good job.
It's my dad. He's not some random person.
Good, that's
Let you know.
Yorktown's first varsity advancing to the finals. And now enjoying the leisurely row back to Thompson Boat Center. On to race 20, the first heat for the men's first varsity. Very competitive field. St. Albans, Washington Lee, West Springfield, and McLean. All four boats setting a brisk pace as the field moved downriver. As the field approached Key Bridge, Washington Lee running strong, but second to St. Albans. Mounted a challenge in the sprint, but St. Albans held them off, taking first, Washington Lee second, both boats on to the finals. In the second heat for the men's first varsity, another competitive field with Westfield, Woodson, T.C. Williams, and Yorktown. T.C. Williams and Woodson contested for first place, Yorktown trailing in third, but very close as the boats passed under Key Bridge. And while T.C. Williams and Woodson, sensational race, claimed the first two spots in the finals, Yorktown was a close third place. And the women's lightweight varsity 4, West Potomac and McLean in race 22. Stayed close early on. West Potomac surged ahead as the field approached Key Bridge. And West Potomac took a win in race 22. For race 23, women's second varsity 4, Episcopal, Woodson, Washington Lee, and West Potomac. All four boats well matched. And they're off in race 23. Episcopal rowing in the first lane. Woodson lane 2, Washington Lee lane 3, and West Potomac in lane 4. Remarkably competitive race. All four boats very close to each other at the halfway point and continuing close as the field moved toward the Key Bridge. Episcopal beginning to move ahead now. West Potomac making its claim to second place, followed closely by Woodson and Washington Lee. And the field moving underneath the Key Bridge, heading for the home stretch. Washington Lee rowing from behind. There are no heats. This is the final for the regatta. Teams trying to sprint at the finish. And a win for Episcopal. Strong rowing by West Potomac, Woodson, and Washington Lee. Moving on to race 24. The men's second varsity 4. There's a lot of waiting by the boats upriver from the starting dock.
Good.
And when they are able to move into position for the race, there's more waiting while all the boats line up. The Yorktown boat rowing in lane 1. In a competitive field featuring West Potomac in lane 2, Mount Vernon in lane 3, and a women's boat from West Potomac rowing in lane 4. And with the race underway, Yorktown out to an early lead. Mount Vernon rowing in lane 3, moving into position for second. Trying to pull away from West Potomac. The West Potomac boat to its left and the West Potomac boat to its right. And the Yorktown second varsity men's 4. Rowing in lane 1. Opening the lead. There they are, the Yorktown men's second varsity 4 rowing in lane 1, and they're opening a lead over Mount Vernon. Again, as with the women's side, this is not a heat, this is the final for the regatta. And the men's second varsity 4 for Yorktown. Out in front and maintaining that lead. And as the Yorktown men's varsity, second varsity 4 approaches Key Bridge, they remain in front. There's the lead as they approach Key Bridge. In a seemingly insurmountable lead with 400 meters left to go in the race. Yorktown men, second varsity 4. Starting their sprint and within sight of victory.
I got one.
Yorktown now closing in on the win.
Woo! Go Mount Vernon!
Mount Vernon rowing in second. And so Mount Vernon will take second place, but a strong victory for Yorktown in race 24.
Right now looks like
Nobody in front of you. First place.
And the Yorktown men's varsity, second varsity 4, rowing back to TBC. On to race 25. The women's novice 4, featuring Stonebridge, Sidwell Friends, Episcopal, and Yorktown. Strong performance, Yorktown finishes third. And in the men's novice 4, Mount Vernon, McLean, West Potomac, and rowing in lane 4, Washington Lee. Upriver, the field remained relatively tight. Washington Lee able to claim second place in the race, closely following the boat from McLean. And women's 4th and 5th varsity 8. Race 27, also not a heat. The finals for the regatta. As the field passed the Three Sisters, they remain very close. And with the exception of the occasional paddle boarder or kayaker, spectators were relatively sparse at this part of the course. But the rowers just as determined, just as focused, and rowing just as hard. This is the women's 4th or 5th varsity 8, featuring Yorktown, T.C. Williams, Washington Lee, and then a 5th varsity from T.C. Williams. So T.C. Williams boats, both the 4th varsity and the 5th varsity, competing against Yorktown and Washington Lee. All the boats remained within reach of each other upriver as the race progressed. T.C. Williams in Yorktown pulled out to a lead and battled for first place. Very close race as the field moved under Key Bridge. Yorktown running in second. Washington Lee running in third place. And finally, at the finish, a challenge from Yorktown. T.C. Williams able to hold off the challenge and win by less than a boat length. At this point, it's worth remembering that the Potomac is not a closed course for the Charlie Butt Regatta. Many of the other boats on the river are not related to the regatta. And some of the rowers on the river are not even rowing in the regatta, as this single rower demonstrates. It can get crowded out on the Potomac, and sometimes that causes trouble. And not all of the paddlers on the river were in fact people, but we had a wide variety of wildlife and not so wildlife. But apparently it was the ducks that were the most frightening creatures on the Potomac that day.
Woodson Lane 1, Wakefield Lane 2, Visitation Lane 3, West Springfield Lane 4. The Women's Junior 8 Final, race 28.
And after the break, it was on to the afternoon of rowing. And in race 28, the Wakefield Junior 8 women rowing strongly, but no match for a very strong boat from Woodson, as Woodson took first place. And on to the men's Junior 8, the 29th race of the regatta, a competitive field with Yorktown, West Potomac, and Stonebridge. With the winds beginning to pick up, Yorktown in the lead as the field moved downriver. West Potomac rowing second, closely followed by Stonebridge. And at the finish, Yorktown holding its lead, and the Yorktown men's Junior 8 claiming first place by a couple boat lengths over West Potomac. Later in the day, the men's Novice 8, featuring Wakefield, West Springfield, Stonebridge, and T.C. Williams. The race was dominated by West Springfield and Stonebridge, locked in a tense battle for first place. Very close race as the field moved under the Key Bridge. Strong performance by Wakefield, but no match for West Springfield and Stonebridge as West Springfield edged out Stonebridge for the win. And Wakefield rowing strong, settling for fourth place in a competitive race. That race marked the end of Wakefield's day, but they felt good about it.
Oh, we had a very good day. We had all 5 boats of us out today. We had 2 8s and 2 4s out here at the Charlie Butt Regatta, and 1 single at Cauffman. Still waiting to see how he did, but sure he did very well.
Okay, and the first 4 boats, how'd they go?
We got 3rd place in 2 of them and 4th in 2 of them, but they were very close races. Very good races.
And I think more for the future, you're happy with the discipline, the way everybody's playing?
Yeah, the Wakefield is definitely moving in the right direction.
Sort of organisation you're pleased to be with?
Yes, it is.
And on to race 35, the women's 3rd Varsity 8. A duel between Yorktown and T.C. Williams. Yorktown rowing in 2nd as the boats pass underneath the Key Bridge. And despite a sprint at the finish, and in the home stretch, T.C. Williams able to hold off a challenge from Yorktown in the women's 3rd Varsity 8.
Yorktown coming in a very gallant 2nd.
And on to race 36, the men's 3rd Varsity 8. Washington Lee, Westfield, T.C. Williams, and Woodson. And Woodson and Washington Lee in a very tight battle for 1st place as the field approaches the Key Bridge. Washington Lee holding a very small lead over Woodson. While Westfield and T.C. Williams having to fight for 3rd place. And a tremendous sprint by Woodson pushed them ahead of Washington Lee. And so in the men's 3rd Varsity 8, Woodson withstands a tough challenge from Washington Lee at the end and wins by not much more than 1 second. For the men's 4th Varsity 8, race 37, Westfield, Washington Lee, another boat from Westfield, and T.C. Williams in a tight race. The 2 Westfield boats, the 4th Varsity and the 5th Varsity, just about even as the field passed under Key Bridge. Washington Lee rowing in 3rd place with a large lead over T.C. Williams. Here you see Washington Lee's secure hold on 3rd place, but they were trailing both Westfield boats. And at the finish, the Westfield 5th Varsity was able to beat the Westfield 4th Varsity and Washington Lee settling for 3rd place. With the winds getting stronger, the women's Novice 8 held their first final. Washington Lee rowing against the Westfield A boat, Sidwell Friends, and T.C. Williams. T.C. Williams claiming victory over Sidwell Friends. Washington Lee running 4th. In the third final for the women's Novice 8, the Washington Lee A boat building up a very strong and early lead against Mount Vernon and Georgetown Visitation. So despite the increasingly strong winds, Washington Lee's A boat in the women's Novice 8 finished strong, claiming an impressive victory over Georgetown Visitation and Mount Vernon, a very large margin of victory. And moving on to the women's freshman 8, the finals, Yorktown National Cathedral. T.C. Williams and Washington Lee in the final. A tight field, but T.C. Williams and National Cathedral pushing out in front as the field approaches Key Bridge. Yorktown rowing third, looking to fend off a challenge from the Washington Lee team. It will come down to the home stretch for these two schools.